This chilling tale is going to take you straight to the heart of Bangladesh, where deep within its misty mountains lies a forest shrouded in mystery. It is a place where reality blurs with folklore and every shadow seems to whisper tales of the supernatural. This is the story of Abdullah and Alif, two brothers who dared to venture into the woods after dark and emerged forever changed. Our story begins with Abdullah and Alif, two young, adventurous brothers from a small village on the edge of the forest. For as long as they can remember, the forest had been off limits. Villagers spoke of it in hushed tones, claiming it was cursed. The legends said the forest held the spirits of those who'd met their end within its bounds, forever trapped and seeking company in the land of the living. Despite these chilling tales, curiosity gnawed at the brothers. They yearned to uncover the truth behind the haunting stories. So one evening, armed with nothing but their courage and determination, they decided to explore the forbidden forest after dark. As twilight painted the sky in hues of orange and purple, Abdullah and Alif stepped into the forest. Their initial steps were confident, their voices echoing in the stillness. But as darkness enveloped the woods, the atmosphere shifted. The playful banter between the brothers faded into uneasy silence. Each snapped twig or rustle of leaves sent shivers down their spines. The forest, once familiar during daylight hours, now seemed alien and menacing. Then they heard it, a low mournful cry echoing through the trees. It was a sound that seemed to pierce their very souls. As they stood frozen, unsure how to react, the sound grew louder. Then, out of the corner of their eyes, they saw it, a hunched figure emerging from the mist. Fear tightened its grip around their hearts. What they saw was beyond anything they'd imagined. A gaunt woman with sunken eyes and skin as white as bone. She shuffled closer, and they could see the emaciated fingers and tattered clothes that looked like they'd been weathered by years of decay. For a moment, time stood still. Then the woman let out a blood-curdling scream that shattered the night. In that instant, adrenaline surged through the brothers, propelling them forward. They ran without a backward glance, crashing through the undergrowth, desperate to escape the horrifying specter that pursued them. As they fled deeper into the forest's dark embrace, the trees seemed to close in around them, forming a labyrinth of twisting branches and looming shadows. Every rustle of leaves sounded like the woman's approaching footsteps. Every snap of a twig made them whirl around, half expecting to see her ghastly form emerging from the darkness. The forest, once a place of childhood exploration, had become a relentless pursuer, its unseen forces determined to keep them trapped within its ghostly grasp. Their breath ragged, their bodies aching from the frantic race, the brothers stumbled onto a clearing. Before them stood a crumbling structure, its roof caved in, revealing a gaping hole where the ceiling had once been. Vines and weeds choked the remnants of what was probably a house. An eerie silence descended, broken only by their pounding hearts. The brothers, overwhelmed with exhaustion and fear, collapsed onto the ground, burying their faces in their hands. In the distance, they could hear the woman's haunting cries echoing through the trees. Suddenly, as if sensing their vulnerability, the forest seemed to respond. The very trees around them creaked and groaned as if sharing in the misery of their plight. And then, from the corner of their eyes, they saw it again. The ghostly figure standing at the edge of the clearing, her sorrowful eyes fixed on them. She took a step forward, and in that instant, terror surged anew in the brothers' hearts. With renewed energy, they scrambled away from the apparition, finding solace in the comforting familiarity of the forest paths. They stumbled over roots and rocks, the urgency of escape propelling them forward. Yet despite their desperate flight, the sense of dread and foreboding refused to abate. The forest seemed to conspire against them, leading them deeper into its haunting embrace. The brothers' breaths mingled with the damp air, each inhalation punctuated by the rhythmic thud of their pounding hearts. The forest had become their relentless pursuer, its unseen forces determined to keep them trapped in its ghostly domain. Then, as abruptly as it began, the pursuit ceased. The spectral woman vanished into thin air, leaving the brothers in a silence so profound it felt like the forest itself was holding its breath. With trembling limbs and racing hearts, Abdullah and Alif slowly came to a halt, their ears attuned to the slightest sound, their eyes scanning the shadowy trees for any sign of movement. And in the midst of this oppressive quiet, they noticed something peculiar. The forest around them seemed to be shifting, the trees contorting into unnatural shapes, their branches weaving a macabre dance in the moonlight. The air grew heavy, charged with an unseen energy that made the hairs on their arms stand on end. The forest, once a familiar backdrop to their childhood adventures, had transformed into something sinister. A place where the boundaries of the natural world blurred, and the whispers of the supernatural resonated. Terror tightened its grip around their hearts as they realized they weren't alone. There was a presence in the forest with them, something unseen yet undeniably malevolent. Paralyzed by fear, they found themselves unable to move, trapped in a nightmare from which there seemed to be no escape. As if summoned by their terror, the ghostly woman materialized before them, her translucent form shimmering in the dim light. Her eyes, hollow and mournful, seemed to gaze into their very souls, dredging up a primordial fear that resonated deep within their bones. She was no ordinary being. Her very essence seemed woven from the shadows of the forest itself. And with each step she took closer, the brothers could sense their own life, essence, ebbing away, replaced by a numbing dread that threatened to consume them whole. Yet even in the face of such unearthly horror, their instincts kicked in. Adrenaline surged through their veins, awakening primal instincts that had lain dormant within them. With a strangled cry, they turned and fled, plunging deeper into the labyrinthine depths of the haunted woods. The forest, as if reveling in their terror, seemed to twist and turn upon itself, confounding their every attempt to find a way out. The trees writhed like tortured souls, their branches reaching out to grab at the fleeing brothers, their leaves whispering taunts that echoed in the stillness of the night. And all the while, the spectral woman pursued relentlessly, her ethereal footsteps silent, yet somehow more terrifying than any scream. The brothers stumbled on, their breaths coming in ragged gasps, their muscles screaming in protest. But terror lent them speed, driving them forward with a desperation born of sheer instinct for survival. Suddenly, through the thickening gloom, they saw it, a faint glimmer of light piercing the oppressive darkness. Hope surged within them, a beacon calling out to them from the heart of the forest's suffocating embrace. With renewed vigor, they surged forward, the promise of escape fueling their every step. As they burst into the clearing, the light revealed a sight both unexpected and eerie. Before them stood an ancient shrine, its weathered walls adorned with cryptic symbols that seemed to writhe and twist in the flickering lamplight. At its center burned a small flame, casting dancing shadows on the moss-covered stones, imbuing the scene with an otherworldly aura. But as the brothers approached, the tranquility of the moment shattered. From the shadows behind the shrine emerged the ghostly woman, her eyes blazing with an unearthly fire, her form more solid, more menacing than before. In her outstretched hand, they saw it, a lantern that emitted a sickly green light, casting grotesque shadows that stretched and distorted around them. And then she spoke, her voice a hollow echo that reverberated within their very bones. "You trespass on sacred ground," she hissed, her words dripping with disdain, "and now you shall pay the price." As she advanced, they could see the chains dragging behind her, their rusted links glinting ominously in the lamplight. The brothers, paralyzed with fear, could only watch as she drew closer, her spectral form looming over them like a harbinger of doom. Suddenly, with a guttural scream, she hurled the lantern towards them. It arced through the air, landing at their feet and spilling its sickly green light across the ground. And in that instant, everything changed. The forest around them convulsed, the trees thrashing wildly as if in pain. The earth trembled beneath their feet, and the very fabric of reality seemed to fray at the edges. The ghostly woman, her face twisted in a mask of rage, raised her chains, her eyes blazing with an otherworldly fire. "You cannot escape your fate," she thundered, her voice echoing with the torment of ages past. And then the forest unleashed its fury. Roots erupted from the ground, reaching out to ensnare the brothers. Thorns the size of daggers rained down from above, and the sickly green light from the spilled lantern illuminated a scene of pure terror. In the midst of this chaos, Abdullah and Alif found themselves torn between the wrath of the spectral woman and the vengeful forest. Trapped in a nightmare of their own making, they desperately fought to stay alive. Yet, even in their darkest hour, hope flickered. Just when it seemed all was lost, a sudden gust of wind swept through the clearing, extinguishing the lantern and plunging the forest into darkness. The chaos around them faltered, the roots receding, the thorns falling still. Gasping for breath, Abdullah and Alif stumbled back, their hearts pounding against their ribs like frantic drummers in a macabre orchestra. They stared into the darkness, unsure of what lay before them, but knowing they had to escape. Slowly, as their eyes adjusted to the gloom, they saw it, a faint glimmer of light beckoning from beyond the trees. With newfound determination, they lurched forward, their every sense on high alert. As they burst through the tree line, the sight that greeted them brought tears to their eyes. They were in an open field, the moon and stars shining down on them with a brilliance that seemed almost otherworldly. Behind them, the forest stood dark and silent, its secrets safely tucked away from prying eyes. They didn't stop running until they reached the safety of their village, the comforting sight of their homes, a balm to their terror-filled souls. Once inside, safe. At last, they recounted their harrowing tale, the events of the night echoing in their voices long after the telling. Yet as the days passed and the villagers shook their heads at their story, Abdullah and Alif knew the truth. They had ventured into the haunted forest and emerged forever changed. The horrors they had witnessed would forever be etched in their memories. A chilling reminder of the night they danced with death in the heart of a haunted wood. As for the spectral woman and the secrets of the haunted forest, they remain shrouded in mystery. Some say the forest keeps the souls of the lost, forever seeking solace or revenge. And some say that Abdullah and Alif, forever marked by their brush with the supernatural, would hear the whispers of the haunted wood calling to them, reminding them of their night in the clutches of the ghostly woman.